Hello and welcome to Warblog. This is a development video for Attrition, and I don't know which one to demonstrate it on. Well, I really don't. So I'm going to demonstrate it on this one because I think the units are quite close. Right, so Attrition is a combat option. I've been meaning to do this for a long while, and I've done so many things recently, it's unbelievable. So we'll go into play mode. So let's supposing that I don't want to attack these units because the odds are not that great for me. To be quite honest, this is sort of not a good example. The example I wanted to use was the one I'm sort of working on at the moment. This one. Well, I'll do it on this one. But the thing is, I'm going to have to move the units together, and that's going to take a while. So, yeah, it's going to take too long. I mean, basically, because the thing is, once I get here into the mountains, let me do it on this one because it's a better example. It's a good example of why you might want to do attrition. Now, I'm just going to sort of move these units so that they can at least get into sort of the right sort of place. You see what I wanted to do the other one. Oh god. So putting the example half it, I was trying to move the units close to each other. So we're basically sort of there. So he can't move any further. Now the thing is, these little units, they want to get through the mountain. Now this is what I call an impasse. It's only an impasse also because it's through this sort of mountainous area, but it's also an impasse because there's not a lot. Well, basically what am I talking about? Basically, the odds are not great for either one of them. If this guy wants to attack them, they're worth 9 in the mountains, and they've got 3. Oh well, they've got 3 times 3, so that's 9. So it's going to be a 1-to-1. Now that's not a good odds because if you lose, you're pretty knackered. And this guy, he's got 3 against 18. He's even worse. So essentially, we come up against sort of the concept of attrition, where both sides can fight against both. So we're going to do that. And what we have down here is the attrition box. So I'm selecting an attrition assault, and I'm going to select all my units and do an attack. Now in this case, it was unsuccessful. Now I haven't really figured out exactly how I want to get the odds working, but the way they work at the moment is quite specific, really. You get a number from 0 to 3 because they've got 3 factors, and a number from, and they've got, well, that's not quite true. They're defending on 9 in the mountains, so they've got 0 to 9, and these guys are attacking on 9, so they're rolling on a 0 to 9 as well, which means that I'm sure it wasn't quite like that before when I did it. Anyway, don't worry about necessarily the boring details there. So essentially, they're rolling on 0 to 9, and then we subtract them. So he's got to get over the difference. So basically, he can roll 0 to 9, and he can roll a 1. And he can roll 0 to 9 and roll an 8. The difference being 7. Which means that he will do 0.7 damage against that, based on those die rolls. Now if he were to be attacking this unit, he'd be rolling on a 0 to 3, and they would be defending on a 2, 4, 6 times 2 to 12. So he'd be 0 to 12, 0 to 3, so he's very unlikely to cause attrition against these units. Now I'm not sure how that all works in the game balance, but that's basically what is actually happening. So we go back to the game, and we'll end that turn. Now he wants to do some attrition against him because there's no way he's going to be able to attack. He's got 3 there versus basically 6. They're going to be worth 12. It'll be 3 to 12, 1 to 4 odds. But he can do an attrition. So he's going to roll for an attrition, and his attrition is unsuccessful. So attrition is a bit like siege. It's almost hardly worth it and quite boring. But the thing is, I think it's sort of something that gives you another dimension because it is actually possible to do. So let's just see whether we can actually get a good result. So, and again, it was unsuccessful. Now, to carry out attrition commits you to having a movement, which means you can't do any of your recovery. So if both sides are treating each other, over a long period of time, they will eventually cause a significant amount of damage against the other party. Now he's very unlikely to get any damage, but he might, so that was unsuccessful, because he's basically got to roll a 1, 2 or 3 whilst this person rolls a 0, or a 2 or 3 whilst this person rolls a 0 or 1, and that will only get them 0.2. So now the thing is, what you'll notice is that carrying out attrition does not take away your ability to dig in. So they're both dug in, whereas an attack they'll lose their dug in status. So he has moved. So we'll end that turn and do the Issel turn, where he's going to engage in some attrition. So they're basically, it's a stalemate here, but they are causing attrition on each other, and this unit has the upper hand because they've got twice as many units. And yes, so it's unsuccessful in that turn. So he's very unlikely to get an attrition roll here. Unsuccessful. But the Issel player is more likely to get one because he's attacking on 9 versus 9. So it only means him to roll less. And so far he hasn't actually done that, which is quite surprising. No. So it doesn't. One of the points with attrition is it doesn't. I'm not going to bother with their one because that's unlikely. It doesn't. You don't lose anything. It's not as though you're. I mean, for example, every time you attack and you get an exchange, you're losing a depression. So there's only so far you can go. Now they won. They succeeded. So they call the attrition attempt successful. And it caused 0.4 damage. So now this unit has got 0.4 damage. So if he keeps on attritioning this unit, he won't recover that. So he needs to sit idle for at least a turn. But at 0.4, all he has to do with that is for 1 turn, and he'll recover that. So, but the thing is now, if they can maintain that over a longer period, then it would be sort of almost successful if they could cause damage at a greater rate than they could recover from it. Now, the only thing I would say is I'm not sure about the numbers in this. Because I'm looking at this campaign this game at the moment. I've been wanting to do attrition for a long time, but I just thought here, it's most suitable. But I sort of racked my brains, and to be quite honest, I thought of it in half an hour, so I might change the maths on it, but. I wanted to do it on sort of an odds factor, and to be quite honest, I didn't want to faff around with all the numbers. I just wanted something really simple so that you could sort of imagine how it might work. But here it's a bit distorted because you've got such heavy defences. I mean, because they're in mountains, etc. If they were actually in the plain, in the open, so if we have a look at that game that I just sort of opened up here, it might be quite different. So let's say I want to cause some attrition against this unit. It was unsuccessful. Now that's quite surprising because I was rolling on a 7 versus a 2, so he would have actually got a 2 and I would have got a 1. So, but now will end that turn. He might actually think, well, I don't want to come out of my defences there because I'm sort of I'm entrenched. He's not dug in; he's entrenched. But he wants to cause some attrition against that unit. So basically, it's it's fairly evenly matched. So he's going to do the attrition, which is a failure. They could have both gone for an attrition against that, but they didn't. But we'll do another attrition roll here anyway. Unsuccessful. But the thing is, they're still in there. They're still entrenched. So we'll end that turn, and let's bring in some more units here. Now, obviously, at this stage, we could probably attack. I mean, that would be. I mean, they'd be defending on 2. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. I mean, this would be an attack. But let's supposing for some reason we want to do an attrition, or just to calculate the numbers. Need to select the units. Failed. That didn't look right. And you're rolling on 6, 13 to 2. He is entrenched, so he's on 6. So that could actually be having a fairly significant factor, because I'd be on 13 versus 6. So that would actually make sense. So on this case they've won, but they've only caused 0.4 damage. So again, I'm in two minds as to whether to make attrition significant or more of a pain, but something you can do if you have to. For example, you could do some attrition as you're waiting for a larger force, or I just don't want to make it. I'm trying to sort of consider it and weigh the balance up against other forms of combat. For example, artillery, etc., etc. I think, and also attrition really only comes into play like sieges when there's a very, very fine balance already in place, because as is at this moment, they wouldn't actually do that. They would go in for an assault. But the thing is, if they go in for an assault, they run the risk of getting an exchange, and they might not want that exchange because they might not want the depression factor, or they even run the risk of they probably won't get much worse. We won't get an attack and retreat, but it could be that they really want to somehow make sure they don't run any particular risk, maybe because they're already highly fatigued, etc. But in this case, they wouldn't. So I don't want to make it so powerful that it becomes actually more attractive than actually doing the regular combat, because I don't want it to replace regular combat. I just want it to be a sort of a complementary sort of tactic that can be done when the odds are not quite right. For example, back in this mountain scenario, it's a perfect situation where neither party can attack each other. I'm a bit sort of unsure about there's only 3 units in there, and they really don't stand a chance of being able to do a lot of damage against this unit because they're so outnumbered. So I might change the odds a little bit, just to tap it up just maybe one more sort of percentile, one more 10% up. But yeah, so that's attrition anyway. So there's a new feature along with a whole bunch of other new features. I can't believe I'm doing so many new things when it's been almost a drought of new things. I haven't done new things for a long time. I've done quite a few, and they haven't taken that long. So anyway, yeah, that's attrition. So and I will probably be playing this game through shortly, probably. Speak later. Bye.